Denver, Colorado. It wasn't just a big night of fight. It was a big night of memorable moments.
Conor McGregor with us here in Denver, Colorado. Left hand from Mark Paul. Right hand right back from Mike Perry. Can I get a face-off with Conor McGregor, man?
It's an incredible setup here, incredible matchmaking, incredible storytelling. Oh, you had to come here. All these fighters that step in here, warriors, and all have my respect. And I'm into this game, yeah. We'll be into this, yeah.
And we are live here in the Maverick Center here in Salt Lake City. What a night it is going to be. Historic indeed for BKFC 56.
Whoever's the king of violence right here, this is going to be a great fight. Perry on the top. Right hand from Mike Perry. Who's the king of violence? I am!
Combat fighting in its purest form, bare knuckle fighting in the city of angels.
We've got the biggest announcement in the BKFC history we're about to make, so let's make that announcement.
What's up, Knucklemania? The notorious Conor McGregor here. Ladies and gentlemen, the huge announcement that I have for you today. Conor McGregor, myself, and McGregor Sports and Entertainment is now an owner of Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. Welcome to the big leagues. David Feldman, baby, we did it.
He's now an owner of BKFC with us, and we're going to take this motherfucking thing all the way to...
Welcome to hour number 3, our third and final of this Monday, live right here on the early line on SportsGrid. He is Donnie Rightside. I am Ben Stevens. One final hour to go. A Paris primer to start off this second full week of Olympic action over in France. Comes your way up next with some action already bright and early on this Monday that we have shared throughout the show. It is track and field week as action in the pool came to a close yesterday at the Olympic Games. It is also a week that preseason football in full will be played in the National Football League. That means rookie quarterback conversations this week here on TEL, as we will do. And of course, we'll get you set for a new week in Major League Baseball with baseball breakdowns in this third and final hour, courtesy of Donnie Rightside and the prop perspective on a Monday with Tom Vecchio as well. DRS, a lot to file through here in this third and final hour.
No doubt about it. And also, finally the knockout stages in basketball in the Olympics, both the men and women's, and also it's getting the kick out of yesterday. How about Ryan Krauser? 3 straight gold medals in the Olympics, the shot put here. I don't know how far I could throw the shot put at that point. You ever try to throw the shot put? Like everybody's been in high school where it's like, hey, track and field, hey, look, pick this bad boy up and throw it. I mean, I can't imagine how hard it is to throw that shot put as far as they actually do. But to do it 3 straight Olympics and 3 straight gold medals, that's some dominance out there. Track and field, pretty fun. By the way, when the javelin, when does that bad boy start up? I mean, I love it.
Listen, a great question. I don't have the answers to that as of right now. I do know the Americans have been dominant in the shot put for quite some time. Our producer, Joe Frizo, telling us that tomorrow is when the javelin begins. When you look at Ryan Krauser and Joe Kovacs, I hope I pronouncing Kovacs' name correctly. 2016 shot put, Krauser the gold, Kovacs the silver. 2021 over in Tokyo, Krauser the gold, Kovacs the silver. 2024 in Paris, Krauser the gold, Kovacs the silver. That is USDA prime American beef, brother, throwing those shot puts all around. I would have to cover track and field events during my days working as a local sports anchor in Omaha, Nebraska. DRS, you know who set multiple records in the shot put in the state of Nebraska? I'll give you a hint. He plays
Kevin
for
Walsh?
your favorite NFL team. No, I wish.
Jordan Mailata. How about that?
You know that he is Australian. Come on.
Tell me,
Come
why
on,
can't he
Donnie.
settle
Don't let our
for
producer
records
beat
out
you.
here? Milton Williams.
Didn't compete. Nah, I mean, you're just doing this to be annoying at this point. It is Cameron Jurgens who takes over the mantle for Jason Kelce in the center of that offensive line. Come on, man. I was trying to have some fun, build some camaraderie between us.
By the way, did you ever call me Jurgens back in the day, just trying to get ahead of the curve, figuring about what it would be? No?
No.
I would have called him Jurgens.
No.
Yeah.
But he's from a town in Nebraska that is, a lot of people would say Beatrice. It's Beatrice, just so you know, in case you ever have to pronounce his, not Beat Rice, not Beatrice, Beatrice, Nebraska. It's where Cam Jurgens
play 8-man football
is from.
Did he play 8-man football
11 man.
in Nebraska? No?
11 man. He was a tight end. He was a
out.
linebacker. He was an edge rusher. He is added on that beef now as an offensive lineman back to his days at Nebraska and, of course, in Philadelphia. Yeah.
All right. Like to see it. Here we go.
Final question before we talk rookie quarterbacks. Where does Jason Kelce rank in your all-time favorite birds?
He's pretty far up there. He is. If I was just going on the field, right, because sometimes off the field changes the opinions. If I just said my favorite player of all time in an Eagles uniform, it's Brian Westbrook. Now, he's a great individual, a nice man, but he just doesn't translate that well to the airwaves, like when you're asking for, analysis here. But I don't hold that against him. We're just talking on-the-field stuff. Defenders, if you say, Donnie, who's your favorite defender of all time? Most people go right to, Brian Dawkins at that point, which I love Brian Dawkins. Well, my favorite defender here, and again, going back ways, loved, obviously, Reggie White, but it was actually Trent Cole was my favorite Eagles defensive player. But, yes, if we're talking quarterbacks, this equals the Olympics as well. Randall Cunningham. His daughter is in the Olympics as a high jumper. Fantastic stuff. Every time he comes back, like back to the season ticket order, hey, Randall Cunningham's going to be at the half or, put them into the Hall of Fame or doing whatever they do. Always a standing ovation. I got to tell you, walk into that stadium, look up in the rafters like this, and I don't know why 5's up there. I don't know why number 5's up there. There you go.
Generational hater, Donnie right side.
I'm telling you.
What a shot he just took at Randall Cunningham. Oh, my God.
I love Cunningham. Just McNabb's 5 up there in the rafter. By the way, 12 is one of those numbers that's not retired, but unofficially. Also, we got some word the other day where Josh Sweat in Philadelphia was trying to wear the number 9 jersey and was told that's not really available at this time. How about that? I like the way sometimes you do where you don't officially retire the jersey, but you just take it out of circulation here. I like that.
So you're throwing shots then at my guy, Donovan McNabb from the Syracuse Orange football
Foles
program.
is better. Jalen Hurts is better. Mike Vick's better all the time. Ron Jaworski's better all the time. McNabb's way, way down that list here.
All right. Why is 5 in here? I like that look. All right, let's talk quarterbacks that might at a certain point have their jerseys retired by their NFL franchises about to enter their first year in the National Football League. We talk rookies by asking you and Fade the Public. Donnie, big week in the National Football League. It's the opening week of preseason games for all 32 NFL teams. Of course, it was the Bears and the Texans on this past Thursday in Canton in the Hall of Fame game. We didn't see Caleb Williams. We should see him for Chicago this week in their first official of 3 preseason games. But we remove him from the conversation. Outside of Caleb Williams, which QB will have the best rookie season? That was the question at SportsGrid on Twitter to see what you all believe of these rookies in their first years in the NFL. We listed Bo Nix, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, and J.J. McCarthy. And most of the public thinking Jaden Daniels, the number 2 overall selection for Washington, will have the best year outside of Caleb Williams, perhaps, but some that replied to the poll, Donnie, thinking Jaden Williams will even surpass Jaden Daniels, will surpass Caleb Williams in this year in the National Football League.
Look, he's got a lot of talent, and I was not fading the public in this one. I'm with the public in Jaden Daniels, so I'm excited to see what we have. And let's grant it, if he does play the full 17-game slate, he's not going to get benched here because he's the rookie quarterback, he's the franchise guy, and there's way too much talent. But when you take a look at who's going to have the best rookie campaign, there's only one guy on that list. You might say, okay, J.J. McCarthy grows into that spot where he might start the season as a backup. Drake May, the same exact thing. Even maybe Bo Nix. We're not talking about that with Jaden Daniels. But at the same time, You add that athletic ability with the legs, where I'm looking at 500-plus yards easily on the ground from this kid. Why not? His numbers, if you look at that dual threat ability that he has, dynamic with the arm. He's got quality wide receivers to throw it after, new offensive coordinator in town in Washington, and just what he can do with his legs, that flat-out speed that he has. Why not? So I agree with it. I think Caleb Williams is the best overall because I think he's going to be put in the best spot here to succeed from the throwing perspective and possibly from a winning perspective. But I'm not putting it past Jaden Daniels. You tell me you like Jaden Daniels better than Caleb this year as a rookie to put up more statistics? I'm having a hard time overturning that argument.
So we have those numbers out, and there are 3 quarterbacks that will enter their rookie year with a season-long passing yards prop. The guys that seem solidified as the number 1 QB for their teams. Caleb Williams, number 3,500 and a hook. Jaden Daniels, 3,025 and a half. And Bo Nix at 2,850 and a hook for Denver. Dan Quinn confirming that Jaden Daniels will play for Washington in their preseason opener against the Jets on Saturday. The Commanders a 3-point road favorite in MetLife. But Caleb Williams is still the favorite to win Offensive Rookie of the Year at plus 135. Some of that for Caleb will be tied to the expectations for a Bears team that is expected to contend for a playoff spot in the NFC. It will be a fascinating race to follow all year long. Your Monday Paris Primer. Up next from the Olympic Games, live right here on TEL.
Hopefully they learned their lesson. Hey, this ain't the NBA, bro. You don't have 6 fouls, and they will check you on this stuff. And Brooks has a reputation coming into this. You can tell the refs are watching them, and they were on him all the time.
This was 10, 12 years ago. Canada playing Greece with that type of lead that they had. They probably would have mentally crumbled and lost that game to Greece by 3 or 4 points in the final minute of that ball game.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Try and set the stage for what should be a great year of NFL action.
There's a handful of teams that potentially can compete for a Super Bowl championship.
Confusion and uncertainty this year more than some in the past.
This team looks like it's ready to make a move, but we just don't know if it's bad or good this year.
J.J. McCarthy is eventually going to take over, but it's like it's a no-lose situation for them.
I mean, they suck. They were 7-10.
Only on SportsGrid.
That race for the Cy Young, pretty much as equally compelling and intriguing as the race for the wild card spots in the National League.
And also keep in mind, this team doesn't pitch the entire season, so his ERA gets affected much, much more if he has a poor outing than, let's just say, Chris Sale or Zach Wheeler that's been there all season long. This would be a fun one to watch it play out, but the big loser last night were the Phillies and Zach Wheeler.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Their coach has a personality that is New York City. Tough, grinding, defensive, no holds barred. We muck this game up and we make you play it our way. And Tibbs has been rewarded. And he should be rewarded for what he's done with the Knicks.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
A Paris primer for this Monday in the second full week at the Paris Olympic Games getting underway. Started bright and early on this Monday, DRS, as we shared in the final event of the women's gymnastics event finals. That was the floor exercise. Simone Biles takes home a silver medal, her 11th Olympic medal in her 3 times at the Games. In 2016 in Rio, the all-around gold, the team all-around gold. 2021 came with its mental struggles and adversity for Biles, who returned at the age of 27, unheard of in Olympic gymnastics. She was back this year, won the all-around in the team and the individual, her second gold medal in both of those, and she takes home a silver on the floor on what might have been her final day of Olympic competition in her women's gymnastics career.
Yeah, and away you go. Right off into the sunset. I'm pretty sure it's going to make a lot of money here post-career, just taking down all of those accolades, which is fantastic. And what are you going to do the rest of your life? 27? Hey, man, the world's your oyster at that point, BWS. Most of us are retiring in our 60s. We retired at 27? That's pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely is. Let's get into some of the other action that you can expect today at the Olympiad. Men's soccer tournament, that U23 youth tournament, semifinal games. Morocco versus Spain, France versus Egypt. The host nation is there with an opportunity to win gold. France has already won 12 gold medals, by the way. They are having a huge host nation glow up and performing well over there in Paris.
King Leon out here. Maybe he can get there and say, is he under 23? He is under 23. He might be able to get out 22. There in the soccer kit. Yeah, there you go. Get out there in the soccer kit and roll. But I do think France probably still the best of what's left over here at this point. And also, maybe you are getting a little of that home cooking here, that home court advantage, home pitch advantage, I should say. We'll see how it plays out. But for me, it's probably France the rest of the way.
France, a hefty favorite at minus 800 to reach the final over Egypt. Spain, a slight favorite over Morocco. The Moroccans dismantled Team USA on Friday or over the weekend. The French, an even money plus 100 favorite to win the gold in men's soccer. The women's soccer tournament quarterfinals will be tomorrow. Team USA takes on Germany, a minus 225 favorite. Spain, greater than a $4 favorite in the other semifinal against Brazil. And the Spanish side, the gold medal favorites in front of the Americans. First week of the Olympic Games, Donnie, is in the pool. It is swimming that dominates. This week, it's the athletics of the track and field competitions. Yesterday, the fastest man in the world, that was Noah Lyles. Round one heats get underway today for the 200-meter sprint. Noah Lyles looking to do a rare feat. That's win gold in both the 100-meter and the 200-meter. He is a heavy favorite because of that closing speed that was on display in the 100-meter sprint to win the 200-meter gold medal as well.
So that is what? It's half a track is basically what that is? What he's going to be running the 200? If the 100's like, what, one straightaway?
I believe so. You keep asking me questions like I'm the authority on this. I don't.
You said you covered this out, you said you covered this out in Omaha, so that's why I'm asking. You're supposed to be the authority here on the network. At this
shot put. Talked about shot put.
Same thing. You're on the same field at that point. You look around. You get the measuring tape out. All right. Yeah.
Halfway around the track. Would you say that our track and field sprinting coverage is still better than the broadcast here stateside and what they put out for the 100-meter dash? Okay, good.
I mean, come on now, Lisa. I mean, we know how to let it breathe out here. You guys want us to miss a segment or two, we'll do that. We'll let this segment breathe all the way through. We are professionals at that. So yes, I would say we are better at this point.
We have earnest and transparent conversations live on air. If we don't know something with certainty to begin, we don't offer up a decisive statement. We learn. We have Vecchio. Vecchio might know
Vecchio's
about it.
The track and field guy. Exactly. Yep.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. We've got the distance running today in the women's finals as well. Gold medal finals in the 5,000 meter, in the 800 meter. 5,000 meter just seems miserable. They say the 400 meter, though, DRS, by far the hardest because it's just one sprint, but all the way around the track. So it's sprint, it's endurance, it's an absolute, you are gassed by the time you are done.
Yeah, again, shout out to these people. I keep on talking like the long distance in the pool. It's the same thing like, hey, what is your Olympic event? Now, granted, any one of those is certainly going to be tough, but I imagine like it's a little bit different training protocol when you run the 100 meter as opposed to the distance races. Like, hey, how are you going to train today? We're going to do some weights here. I'm going to work on my like first 20 yards. Like, you don't get to work on your first 20 yards when you're running distance. Like, yeah, I'm going to go run 18 miles today to get my body ready.
Crazy.
So shout out to the people doing distances in any sport. You are a much better man or woman than I am. Straight up at that point. I can't handle that.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane. I completely agree with you. Also, 3-on-3 gold medal games in basketball. The United States women's team getting to the semifinal round. Both the semifinals and the finals are today. The United States will take on Spain. Canada takes on Germany. The American men bounce from medal consideration. Disappointing stuff, DRS, led by Jimmer Fredette, that was battling injury for the Americans at the Summer Games.
I mean, come on now. This is one of those true sports that you would line up like, Team USA's women's soccer team could beat the men's soccer team, and I think the women's 3-on-3 could beat the men's 3-on-3. How about that? Embarrassing efforts by both of those. Congratulations to the women holding us up there, so maybe we can get a medal.
Listen, as we learn on the fly, in a way, the reason that it's difficult for the United States men's team to put out a guaranteed and solid 3-on-3 product is because of FIBA rules that during qualification, if you play for an NBA team, even a G League roster, or one of the highest levels in Europe, you are not available for qualification. So it's guys that really haven't been able to crack it in pro leagues that are now out there representing Team USA. Might we be able to make some of those changes ahead of the 2028 games in Los Angeles? We shall see. The United States women, by the way, a 2.5-point favorite against Spain in that Olympic semifinal action in 3-on-3 women's hoops.
Yeah, well, looking forward to it. Wait, gold medals, man. That's what we're striving for right now the rest of the way. How many medals can we win in this? Are we going to exceed our expectations? I think we just might this year, Ben. I think we're on pace.
I hope so.
Yeah.
DRS. We are certainly on pace. 72 as of last check earlier this morning, and we added on a couple of medals in gymnastics. We set the stage for this week in MLB. Up next.
Hopefully they learned their lesson. Hey, this ain't the NBA, bro. You don't have 6 fouls, and they will check you on this stuff. And Brooks has a reputation coming into this. You can tell the refs are watching them, and they were on him all the time.
This was 10, 12 years ago. Canada playing Greece with that type of lead that they had. They probably would have mentally crumbled and lost that game to Greece by 3 or 4 points in the final minute of that ball game.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Try and set the stage for what should be a great year of NFL action.
There's a handful of teams that potentially can compete for a Super Bowl championship.
Confusion and uncertainty this year more than some in the past.
This team looks like it's ready to make a move, but we just don't know if it's bad or good this year.
J.J. McCarthy is eventually going to take over, but it's a no-lose situation for them.
I mean, they suck. They were 7-10.
Only on SportsGrid.
That race for the Cy Young, pretty much as equally compelling and intriguing as the race for the wild card spots in the National League.
And also keep in mind, this team doesn't pitch the entire season, so his ERA gets affected much, much more if he has a poor outing than, let's just say, Chris Sale or Zach Wheeler that's been there all season long. This would be a fun one to watch it play out, but the big loser last night were the Phillies and Zach Wheeler.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Their coach has a personality that is New York City. Tough, grinding, defensive, no holds barred. We muck this game up and we make you play it our way. And Tibbs has been rewarded. And he should be rewarded for what he's done with the Knicks.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
The marquee matchup this week in Major League Baseball starts tonight in Los Angeles. It's the two top teams in the National League, the two best prices to win a pennant in the NL, and the two top World Series contenders facing off over the next 3 nights at Chavez Ravine in L.A. The Dodgers play host to the Philadelphia Phillies. Neither team playing its best baseball as of right now. Now, Los Angeles is 9-6 since the All-Star break, but they started out winning 5 in a row, 6 of its first 7. They have dropped 5 of their last 8, but a series victory against the A's this past weekend. The Philadelphia Phillies snapped a 6-game skid yesterday in Seattle to avoid a sweep against the Mariners, but the Philadelphia Phillies just 4-11 since the All-Star break. These two teams, Donnie, of course, faced off at the bank in Philly in the final week before the All-Star break in the middle of July, and it was a resounding statement made by the Phillies, a 3-game sweep over the Dodgers. What will we see this time as we change venues to Los Angeles?
Yeah, take a look at that total. That's probably what I'm most interested in typically. Like, hey, let's get to the over at this point. I'm not going that way. I don't think we get to 9 runs, which means you're probably going to get a push and or a win. The reason being, if we're taking a look at the pitchers on the mound today, last 60 days, minimum of 20 innings pitched, there's 16 of those. Two of the top 3 pitchers on this card are going to be from this game. Number 1 is Glasnow. Now, he might have a slightly higher ERA over the past 60 days, Ben, at a 4.61, but we don't really look at that number necessarily as an end-all be-all. It's more that xFIP minus number where he's the best by far on this card at a 69. Aaron Nola's third on the card at an 81. Both of these guys with manageable Sierra numbers and xFIP numbers. I think they might get the best of it because you look at the Phillies roster, loved what they did yesterday. We'll see if that continues. But also, they didn't do all that much against a really good pitcher in Logan Gilbert yesterday. Sort of when he got out of the game is when they took advantage. You might be getting the same thing today out of a Tyler Glasnow start, but also from a Phillies perspective, Nola has been very good over the past 60 days, and also that lineup isn't all cracked up what it's meant to be. Look, Nola does struggle a little bit with left-handed batters, so you're going to focus on Shohei Ohtani, you're going to focus on Gavin Lux. There's no difference in that. Kevin Biggio's even had a very good run over the past 30 days against right-handed pitching, but outside of that, it doesn't look like a fantastic lineup. So for me, I see the minus 136 price. It does make some sense. The Dodgers at home theoretically playing better baseball than the Phillies, but I do think this tracks more of an under here on the West Coast in a playoff atmosphere.
Yeah, 7.5 is that total, dropping down from 8. The Dodgers remain that slight home favorite at minus 132. If there is a time the Dodgers are an underdog this week at home, LA has been atrocious as an underdog. They got swept by Philly as a dog a couple of weeks back. 4-9 for the Dodgers. The Phils 9-9 straight up and even 500 booked as an underdog. And again, here is where these two teams stack up. The Phils a 6-game lead in the NL East. The Dodgers a 4.5-game lead in the National League West. The Dodgers plus 160 to win the National League pennant. Philadelphia plus 230 to win the National League pennant. The two best prices. As we look, though, Donnie, for who will be that number 1 National League seed, the Phils a favorite at minus 145. The Dodgers' second best price at plus 135. A much larger lead for the Phils before the All-Star break than where it is right now. Philly enters this midweek matchup in L.A. with a 1.5-game advantage over the Dodgers.
Yeah, and it'll play out the way it does. And the reason I say that is the Phillies have a tough West Coast stretch where they're not playing their best baseball. And these numbers will change, just like we talked about the Cy Young Award race here, on a day-to-day basis. You're going to see these numbers shrink. Hey, if the Dodgers sweep the Philadelphia Phillies, full-blown panic in the city of brotherly love. But you're also taking a look at down the stretch. We are now talking about that NL West getting ultra-competitive with some really good teams chasing you, whereas the NL East, the Phillies are still have that 6-game lead, but you're looking at Atlanta saying, oh, they're injured. What more can they do? And then the Mets to see if maybe that, fun run eventually runs its course here. But I do think getting to the playoffs and being overall the top overall seed has a lot to do with what your division's going to do. And I think you're going to get a lot more pressure, Ben, from that Dodgers side than you are from the Phillies side when it's all said and done.
Yeah, San Diego and Arizona playing lights out as of this moment. Philadelphia will head to the desert to take on the Diamondbacks for an extended 4-game weekend series following this one in Los Angeles. After the Phils completed the sweep over L.A. back in the final week before the All-Star break, they were 61-32. They were 6.5 games in front of the Dodgers for that top spot. L.A. at the time just 59-39. The Fightins have lost their last 6 series since that series sweep over the Dodgers before the All-Star break. 8 more games to break down for you around MLB. We'll do that up next for the Prop Perspective with Tom Vecchio and beyond. Some baseball breakdowns from Donnie. More on the early line to come next.
hopefully they learned their lesson. Hey, this ain't the NBA, bro. You don't have 6 fouls, and they will check you on this stuff. And Brooks has a reputation coming into this. You can tell the refs are watching them, and they were on him all the time.
This was 10, 12 years ago. Canada playing Greece with that type of lead that they had. They probably would have mentally crumbled and lost that game to Greece by 3 or 4 points in the final minute of that ball game.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Try and set the stage for what should be a great year of NFL action.
There's a handful of teams that potentially can compete for a Super Bowl championship.
Confusion and uncertainty this year more than some in the past.
This team looks like it's ready to make a move, but we just don't know if it's bad or good this year.
J.J. McCarthy is eventually going to take over, but it's like it's a no-lose situation for them.
I mean, they suck. They were 7-10.
Only on SportsGrid.
That race for the Cy Young, pretty much as equally compelling and intriguing as the race for the wild card spots in the National League.
And also keep in mind, this team doesn't pitch the entire season, so his ERA gets affected much, much more if he has a poor outing than, let's just say, Chris Sale or Zach Wheeler that's been there all season long. This would be a fun one to watch it play out, but the big loser last night were the Phillies and Zach Wheeler.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Their coach has a personality that is New York City. Tough, grinding, defensive, no holds barred. We muck this game up and we make you play it our way. And Tibbs has been rewarded. And he should be rewarded for what he's done with the Knicks.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Live right here on this Monday on the Early Line on SportsGrid. I am Ben Stevens. Donnie right side is here, and it's a Monday. That means the prop perspective with Tom Vecchio. Tom, as always, we appreciate the time. Thank you for being here on this Monday to start off a new week on SportsGrid.
Yeah, thanks for having me. We got some Olympic basketball to cover. We are in the dog days of MLB season. Preseason NFL is here. I'm ready to go.
Yeah. Team USA, a perfect 3-0 in men's basketball, Vecchio, throughout group play action in Group C, capped off by a 21-point win over Puerto Rico on Saturday. It's been relatively easy so far for the Americans in group play. Now it matters even more with the knockout round, the quarterfinal round starting tomorrow against Brazil. What have you made out of the American performance so far in the Olympic Games?
You know, it's been kind of what I expected so far, where, some early struggles. There's obviously a lot of talk about the rotation, but they got things ironed out. I think they're, going ahead at full steam. I think this game is going to be, very solid overall. My take would be U.S. wins, they don't cover, and we see the under hit. So, them winning by 22 points, I think would be a very comfortable, very dominant win from them overall. But, 26.5 points is getting to that point where I have a few concerns. I'm not saying I have any concerns about them losing. They're obviously going to win this game, but them maybe not covering wouldn't shock me. Winning by 21 points, I think, is where we're going to see. So I think the under is going to hit. I think they'll keep Brazil's defense in check, but I'm not sure how much they're going to get out and run and really pile up the points.
Yeah, I agree with that, too, because it's survive and advance at this point. You would love, 20-point win, 15-win, 10-point win. They'll be just fine with that moving on. There's no style points required at this point in the competition. But we're talking about the Team USA-Brazil game at minus 26.5 at the FanDuel Sportsbook. The other quarterfinal games, pretty close listed here. Greece and Germany, 7.5. Australia and Serbia, 6.5. Canada and France, also 7.5. From the other games outside of Team USA versus Brazil, do you have your eye on one of those games or how they're going to go?
Yeah, France versus Canada has to be the most interesting. I think those are two pretty competent teams, especially because either of them could end up facing Team USA in the gold medal match. I like France plus 7.5. They've looked a little bit up and down. Just, I know they're winning games, but just in terms of putting together a full game, I still have a few doubts across the board. I still think Canada is a very good team. I also have a lot of faith in Germany. I think they look super solid. So I like France. I like Germany. I think just looking for some value potentially in direct medal outcomes, whether it's USA versus Canada, and then Germany picking up the bronze, like some sort of that. I think you can find some value in the market there.
Before the final day of group play, I bet Germany to record a medal at plus 130. The Germans now minus 192. 3 undefeated teams in Olympic pool play action. Canada in Group A, Germany in Group B, the United States in Group C. The Americans just a 1 and 2 team against the spread. So, Vecchio, you mentioned the 26.5-point number against Brazil tomorrow afternoon. The over-under stands at 185 and a hook, but how about the prop perspective? Which American performer do you expect to step up now in the quarterfinal round against the Brazilians?
Yeah, let's keep things super simple with LeBron over 12.5 rebounds plus assists. It's sitting at minus 130, and my take from the beginning has always been that LeBron's going to do everything that it takes to win, and that doesn't necessarily mean scoring, right? He can facilitate the offense. He can distribute the ball. 7-9, 7-5, 6-8 is what he's had in the first 3 games when it comes to rebounds and assists. So over in 2 of 3. Does he need to lead the team in scoring? No, but he can do everything else, and that's what we're going to see from him, I would say, in all of the games moving forward. Maybe not a ton of points, but the rebounds and assists from LeBron will always be there.
Looking forward to it. See if U.S. can grab a gold medal. Let's flip it over to Major League Baseball, and we'll take a look at the Philadelphia Phillies and the Los Angeles Dodgers, what appears to be the 2 best teams in the National League, depending on how they're playing on a day-to-day or week-to-week basis. The Phillies come into this game as an underdog. The Dodgers a slight favorite at a minus 132. The price for a dog for the Phillies is a plus 112. Total listed at 7.5. Phillies finally with a big win yesterday. Nola Glasnow on the mound tonight. What gives here, Tom?
I think we're going to see lack of scoring. I hope this is like a true playoff type atmosphere. Yeah. This is what we should be seeing in the NLCS. So that's what I'm expecting from the game overall. I know the Phillies have been struggling as of late, but for this game right now, I'm going to Glasnow over 7.5 strikeouts. It's sitting at minus 112. He missed a little bit of time, but in his 2 starts since he's come back, 91, 102 pitches. We're not worried about his pitch count. 32.8% strikeout rate this season, 13.7% swinging strike rate, and a 2.89 CR is absolutely fantastic. The Phillies, if we look at their strikeout rate versus right-handed pitching as the season has gone on, it was at 22.5% in June, 24.5% in July, and it's up at 26.4% to start August, obviously just a few days in. It's a smaller sample size. But if they're struggling right now, Glasnow is the type of pitcher that can jump on that, and we'll see him go deep into the game over 7.5 strikeouts, sitting at minus 112.
So, Vecchio, as we look at this series and what we have seen so far between these 2 teams, the 2 frontrunners in the National League pennant prices, we look back nearly a month ago at this point to the 2 facing off in Philadelphia. The Phils swept the Dodgers. At that point, 6.5 games in front of L.A. for the best record in all of the National League. But since the All-Star break, just 4-11 for Philadelphia. The Dodgers 9-6, but they have dropped 5 of their last 8 games. Where do you put these 2 teams in terms of pennant and World Series contention entering this marquee matchup in Los Angeles this week?
I think they're perfect where they are, but as I talked about, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, I like the Phillies to face the Orioles direct outcome in the World Series. So that means I want to take the Phillies over the Dodgers in the NLCS at plus 600. So I think these are the 2 best teams. I think that's where we're going to stay for the rest of the season. Their odds are going to shift a little bit here or there. But ultimately, I'm not worried about their Phillies and this recent little skid that they've had. Whether, if we're looking at the other side of this and they scored 10 runs in 5 straight games or 6 straight games, I wouldn't be changing my opinion on the Phillies. They're scoring some runs, then their bullpen's, blowing the game. They have great pitching, then they have great bullpen, and then their hitting's not coming through. So I'm not worried about a 5 or 6 game sample size for any team at any point near really when I have so much faith, especially in their pitching staff, when push comes to shove. So I want the Phillies over the Dodgers in the NLCS at plus 600.
All right, let's keep moving along here. And you're going to see a graphic on the screen. We don't want you to adjust or say maybe your internet is off or maybe you didn't put your glasses on. The Oakland Athletics are taking on the Chicago White Sox today. A minus 178 price with the Oakland Athletics over the White Sox in a total of 8.5. It's Busch versus Sears. Historic numbers, not only because the Oakland Athletics are almost a 2-1 favorite, but the White Sox looks like they're going to lose again, Tom. What's your thoughts today, White Sox Athletics?
I can't possibly bet on the White Sox. I also can't possibly bet on the Athletics. The only spot to go, I think, would be maybe trusting JP Sears over 4.5 strikeouts. It is sitting at minus 144. Chicago, they have the 6th worst strikeout rate versus left-handed pitching. Sears has got some strikeouts going, especially since the start of July. He's got up at 8 and 9. So I'm not laying money with the Athletics. That's never going to happen. I also can't possibly trust the White Sox. But maybe we can trust JP Sears, who isn't the worst pitcher in the world, and he's not the best pitcher, but he can jump on this White Sox lineup that is just absolutely dreadful right now.
20 consecutive losses for Chicago.
Crazy.
The longest losing streak in Major League Baseball this millennium. In 2000, the longest since 1988, when the Baltimore Orioles started the season 0-21. Another loss today for the White Sox. They matched that in history in the worst way that you could ever hope for history. A divisional duel, an in-state showdown, Vecchio, gets started today in Arlington between the Rangers and the Astros. A virtual pick'em, minus 112 for Houston. A slight favorite, 8.5 is the total. What do you like tonight in Arlington?
Let's keep it really simple, and that's Jose Altuve for 2+ total bases at plus 105. He's going up against Andrew Heaney, 396 slugging allowed to right-handed hitters, 1.30 home runs per nine. He's got a 46.9% fly ball rate. Altuve, of course, great versus lefties, 140 WRC plus. He's got a 398 BABIP, and while I'm not a big believer in BVP overall, batter versus pitcher directly, Altuve has kind of crushed Heaney in his career in 46 at-bats, got 14 hits, which is above 300. Batting average, obviously, isn't the most important stat, but Heaney's not a good pitcher. Altuve's a great hitter. We know that. Let's just keep it super simple. He gets on base, picks up a couple singles, 2+ total bases, plus 105.
The Rangers have lost 7 of their last 9. The Astros have dropped 5 of their last 7. Tom Vecchio, we appreciate the prop perspective as always. More MLB breakdowns and picks next.
Hopefully they learned their lesson. Hey, this ain't the NBA, bro. You don't have 6 fouls, and they will check you on this stuff. And Brooks has a reputation coming into this. You can tell the refs are watching them, and they were on him all the time.
This was 10, 12 years ago. Canada playing Greece with that type of lead that they had. They probably would have mentally crumbled and lost that game to Greece by 3 or 4 points in the final minute of that ball game.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Try and set the stage for what should be a great year of NFL action.
There's a handful of teams that potentially can compete for a Super Bowl championship.
Confusion and uncertainty this year more than some in the past.
This team looks like it's ready to make a move, but we just don't know if it's bad or good this year.
J.J. McCarthy is eventually going to take over, but it's like it's a no-lose situation for them.
I mean, they suck. They were 7-10.
Only on SportsGrid.
That race for the Cy Young, pretty much as equally compelling and intriguing as the race for the wild card spots in the National League.
And also keep in mind, this team doesn't pitch the entire season, so his ERA gets affected much, much more if he has a poor outing than, let's just say, Chris Sale or Zach Wheeler that's been there all season long. This would be a fun one to watch it play out, but the big loser last night were the Phillies and Zach Wheeler.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Their coach has a personality that is New York City. Tough, grinding, defensive, no holds barred. We muck this game up and we make you play it our way. And Tibbs has been rewarded. And he should be rewarded for what he's done with the Knicks.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Live right here on the Early Line on this Monday, all around Major League Baseball, a 9-game slate, including a very peculiar matchup today in St. Louis. It's a makeup game. It's just one game for the Mets as they visit the Cardinals today in the Lou. It is a virtual pick'em as well. Sean Manaea gets the start for the Amazons. -112. The Mets an ever so slight favorite in St. Louis. 9 is the total. The Mets lost their weekend set, dropping their last 2 games against the Angels. St. Louis lost 3 of 4, losing its weekend outing against Chicago. 2 teams in National League wildcard contention that are just trying to keep pace with the Diamondbacks and the Padres at this moment. Who gets a much-needed victory today under the arch?
Should be a pretty even game here, but I might be leaning a little bit towards the underdog. Now, typically, that's never a good thing. We have Sunday night baseball where a team was playing on the road, then they got to come back home, and it's not necessarily, playing that 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock at night, 5:15 Eastern start here, so a little bit of a travel delay for St. Louis. But one of those pitchers, Andre Palante, that's on the mound today. Take a look at his last 60 days, Ben. An 81 xFIP minus, which is good enough for 4th on the card today. ERA 3.12, xFIP 3.29, so very manageable numbers. Now, I do like that offense here for the Mets, the way it presents against right-handed pitching. But if we are looking at some other numbers on Palante, ISO power number 132, weighted on base percentage 285 through his last 72 batters. He's really been doing well. So I think I have a slight pitching advantage tonight with Palante taking a look at over Sean Manaea. But if we are saying, okay, how do the St. Louis Cardinals present against Manaea? Manaea's a left-handed pitcher. He's actually done decent against right-handed batters, which, again, the majority of the batters in this lineup will be from the right side. The only lefties, Burleson, Donovan, and Nootbaar, who actually have really bad numbers against left-handed pitching. It's one of those where you say to yourself, single game, it's not a series, it's a drop-in. St. Louis played last night, maybe looking more towards the under. But if I had to go with the side, I probably would take St. Louis at home as the slight dog price because I do think they have the better pitcher on the mound today.
9, that total as of this moment in St. Louis. We have one of the hottest teams in baseball since the All-Star break, the Diamondbacks, 11-4. They have won 9 of their last 11. And the best team currently in the American League record-wise, that's the Cleveland Guardians. Today they meet up in the land. Zach Gallen gets the start for Arizona. He's won 3 consecutive outings for the Diamondbacks. And the D-backs, a road favorite in Cleveland. What do you like in this matchup?
They probably should be at this point. Now, also, it's so hard to win on the road, and the Guardians are a very good ball club. And if I tell you this, how about this? Only 21 batters that Logan Allen's faced over the past 30 days. It's not a lot, but he does have some really good numbers. An 0.59 ISO against and a weighted on-base percentage of 277. But when you take a look at that season in totality, that bumps up to an ISO power number against at 244 and a weighted on-base percentage of 386 through 387 batters. And even if we're looking at the list itself today, 16 total pitches that qualify for my card, 15th out of 16, that's Logan Allen with a 122 xFIP minus over the past 60 days, an ERA above 5, an xFIP above 5, and a Sierra rate at 5. That's usually devastating there. And Zach Allen, we know, is a pedigree pitcher. There are some rain in the forecast tonight, thunderstorms, so always buyer beware where you say, I have the better pitching matchup, and by the 3rd inning, you're knocked into a bullpen start. But obviously, you can't handicap that way in the morning. The better pitcher is Zach Allen. I believe those numbers are correct. I'll ride with the road team here, the Arizona Diamondbacks.
The Chicago Cubs took 3 of 4 against the St. Louis Cardinals. The Minnesota Twins beat up on the other Chicago team this weekend, as you would expect, sweeping the White Sox. They face off tonight inside the friendly confines. The Twins, a slight road favorite at -116. Over-under is 8. You can see that's a pick'em price, a little bit of line movement in favor of Minnesota. What's the breakdown tonight at Wrigley?
Now, typically, most people will say, like, well, you know why there's an 8 at Wrigley, right? That means the wind is blowing in, which it is. Some rain in the forecast, but I don't think it's going to affect the game overall tonight. 78 degrees at first pitch, which is nice, but that wind is blowing in, but it's under 10 miles an hour. They're not hurricane-force winds, 25 miles. Like, boy, you get the ball in the air, it's going to blow from center field back into the infield. That's not the case here. So I actually like the total. You take a look at Hendricks on the mound. He's a right-handed pitcher. He's actually done very well against right-handed batters, but a lot to be desired against lefties. And you come into that lineup just against right-handed pitching over the past month. We're talking about the Minnesota Twins, Wallner, Miranda, Kepler, Lewis, Buxton, Larnach, and Castro, all well above their weighted on base percentage averages against right-handed pitching. That should help. flip it over to the other side. Chicago going up against Festa, who hasn't had a lot of success through his 85 batters that he's faced, Ben. How about this? An ISO power number combined, 325, disastrous. Weighted on base percentage, 402, disastrous. You got some decent hitters in the lineup, particularly in the middle of that order. If we're looking from ISO power numbers that should be elevated, Pete Crow Armstrong, Cody Bellinger, Seiya Suzuki, Michael Busch. So I look at that 8 number. Forget about the side. I think we get 9 runs or more, despite the wind blowing in at Wrigley, which, again, is under 10 miles an hour. It's not devastating windy conditions. I like the over here.
Yeah. The highest total of the night in Kansas City. It is 10 in an important midweek matchup between the Royals and the Red Sox. 3 games this week at Kauffman in KC. Kansas City, 2.5 games in front of Boston for that third and final American League wildcard spot at this moment. The Royals playing better baseball as of late. They have won 6 of their last 7. They took the weekend series against Detroit. The Red Sox winning this weekend as well. Big matchup, postseason implications. What's the look tonight in Kansas City?
Yeah, you probably would lean towards Kansas City because they do have the better pitcher on the mound. Even if Singer isn't putting up unbelievable numbers, he's still at a 92 xFIP minus here, Ben, over the past 60 days, which is certainly above average. You take a look at Paxton, every time he lines up, what are you worried about? Fly balls, not a lot of strikeouts. And when you're talking about that, at 92 degrees at first pitch in Kansas City and 6-mile-an-hour winds blowing out, you might be in for some trouble. Paxton's a left-handed pitcher. He does well against lefties. Here's the issue. He only got 1 lefty in this lineup tonight for the Kansas City Royals. And if we're just looking from a right-handed perspective, last 66 batters, a 214 ISO, and a weighted on base percentage of 378. You know who you're looking at right in the middle of that lineup. Witt, Perez, and Renfroe. 353, 333, and 400 ISO power numbers respectively here. I can never bet on James Paxton, and I can never bet on him on the road. I do think Kansas City is the better team, even though, you know me, I love me a lineup for those Boston Red Sox. I just don't think they match up as well, just because I don't think their pitcher is all that good. Should have a good night for hitting tonight, no doubt about it.
Double-digit total. It is at 10. Donnie, before we let you go, to get to the money line to start off this new week, will it be 21 consecutive losses for the Chicago White Sox tonight in Oakland?
Yes, they're gonna pop the champagne bottles in their own locker room tonight by taking down another L for themselves. We're doing it in reverse here, so we're gonna celebrate that.
Interesting. I do kind of like the perspective. Talk to you tomorrow. More on the early line comes your way next.
Hopefully they learned their lesson. Hey, this ain't the NBA, bro. You don't have 6 fouls, and they will check you on this stuff. And Brooks has a reputation coming into this. You can tell the refs are watching them, and they were on him all the time.
This was 10, 12 years ago. Canada playing Greece with that type of lead if they had. They probably would have mentally crumbled and lost that game to Greece by 3 or 4 points in the final minute of that ball game.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Try and set the stage for what should be a great year of NFL action.
There's a handful of teams that potentially can compete for a Super Bowl championship.
Confusion and uncertainty this year more than some in the past.
This team looks like it's ready to make a move, but we just don't know if it's bad or good this year.
J.J. McCarthy is eventually going to take over, but it's a no-lose situation for them.
I mean, they suck. They were 7-10.
Only on SportsGrid.
That race for the Cy Young, pretty much as equally compelling and intriguing as the race for the wild card spots in the National League.
And also keep in mind, this team doesn't pitch the entire season, so his ERA gets affected much, much more if he has a poor outing than, let's just say, Chris Sale or Zach Wheeler that's been there all season long. This would be a fun one to watch it play out, but the big loser last night were the Phillies and Zach Wheeler.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Their coach has a personality that is New York City. Tough, grinding, defensive, no holds barred. We muck this game up and we make you play it our way. And Tips has been rewarded. And he should be rewarded for what he's done with the Knicks.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Live right here on the early line on SportsGrid. 3 hours about to come to a close on this Monday to start off a new week here on TEL. I am Ben Stevens. Donnie Rightside, of course, will be back tomorrow. Big news yesterday in college football. ESPN, Dan Murphy and Pete Thamel reporting that they had seen a draft of a potential notice of allegations against the Michigan football program, the reigning national champs nationally, in terms of the sign-stealing scandal that rocked college football last year in Ann Arbor, spearheaded by one infamous man named Connor Stalions. It has taken a while. As we know, the gears of justice at the NCAA work at the speed of molasses. So let's try to break this down a little bit for you. It's been a topic ahead of a new college football season, less than 3 weeks away, by the way. Now, Saturday, August 24th is that debut that has kind of come back into the cycle each and every week. The big notice that we got yesterday, that the notice of allegations, at least just a draft, detailed things from the NCAA and any potential discipline or punishments that might be levied against the Wolverines. Again, just a draft. Things can change, but when that report happens, it's for a reason to kind of set the table of what the public and all of college football nationally can expect. Sharon Moore is one of the few people involved with this sign-stealing scandal that remains in Ann Arbor. He is the new head coach of the Maize and Blue. According to this report that ESPN filed yesterday, Sharon Moore, as of this draft, could be subject to level 2 violations as a repeat offender to the NCAA, and it could lead to a suspension. You might ask yourself, as you read through that report, what exactly is a level 1 violation? What is a level 2 violation considered by the NCAA? It's just the severity. Level 1 being the highest violation, the most staunch violation that you can make against the NCAA and its rules and guidelines in place. There is no exact protocol or criteria of then what a sentence or a discipline follows. Level 1, is it a 3-game suspension? It is a violation of wins and losses in the record book. Nobody truly knows at this point. There is a potential that Sharon Moore could be suspended for an amount of time, either to start 2024's football season or 2025. Of course, his former boss, Jim Harbaugh, was suspended for 6 games last year, 3 for recruiting violations and misleading an investigation to start the 2023 campaign for Michigan, 3 at the end of the regular season, levied by the Big Ten for this sign-stealing scandal in Ann Arbor. Jim Harbaugh is one of the 7 Michigan staff members named in this potential notice of allegation with a show cause, which sets a certain standard and timeline should Jim Harbaugh ever venture back into the college football ranks. It also lists other individuals and staff members and assistant coaches a part of Michigan's program, including Connor Stalions, Chris Partridge, who worked on the defensive side of the football, Jesse Minter, the former defensive coordinator. Of course, that wouldn't really impact the Michigan football program moving forward. Okay, so next natural question. What is going to be the impact, if any, on the Wolverines? There was a report of a potential postseason ban, not necessarily detailed in ESPN's report, and the notice of potential allegation. Okay, could Sharon Moore be suspended for any amount of time in 2024? Maybe. Are they going to vacate the national championship for the Wolverines? In that report from ESPN, nothing credible to that point. What does it prove? That the witch hunt that many said in Ann Arbor was a nothing burger is not exactly that. Michigan did cheat. That is very clear from what the NCAA is stating. It was spearheaded by Connor Stalions, but as it goes on to report in the potential notice of allegation, that many in the Michigan football program knew of it. The reason Sharon Moore could face discipline is because he deleted 52 text messages that he shared with Connor Stalions on the day that media reports stated this very sign-stealing scandal was taking place. However, it does further state that nobody on the coaching staff at Michigan had a deep involvement in the sign-stealing scandal. Did they do enough to stem it? No, they lacked institutional control. But did they know? Did they support Connor Stallions in his effort? That has not been concluded as of this moment. When the actual discipline is handed down, we, of course, will let you know. I'm Ben Stevens. Me and Donnie Rightside. We'll be back tomorrow, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on the Early Line.